Welcome and thank you for tuning in. You're listening to the Beyond 50 radio program. I'm Daniel Davis. One of the things I really enjoy about the program is when I get an opportunity to meet with someone who shares something from the past that connects all of us. This particular one was about a particular meeting that happened at the age of 12 in 1969 when a friendship grew with Frankie Valli of Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons that ultimately turned into a whirlwind romance that lasted for more than a decade. Our guest today is going to talk about the fact that those were the best and the worst years of her life as she met Frankie Valli and what she learned from giving her heart to a man who was never really hers. It's also a wonderful tale of dysfunctional families, mother-daughter relationships, and a long-lasting influence men with power can hold over the women in their lives. Well, I don't know if that's so wonderful, but it's certainly a tale. The book coming out will be Big Girls Do Cry, Why My Affair with Frankie Valli Matters. And I'd like to welcome to the Beyond 50 radio program our guest, April Kirkwood. April, thank you for being on the program.
Hello, Daniel. My heart was starting to pitter-pat as I heard all of this, and I wanted to start singing Big Girls Do Cry. I still have a tender spot in my heart when I review what happened to me with Frankie in it was like a 3-decade affair, 30 years. So it was a long time coming and never arriving, but I enjoyed the journey all the same.
You know, it's really fascinating because within the last month, if you will, I just recently spoke with Ginger Alden, who was Elvis Presley's last fiancée just before his passing. And I found it interesting to have one degree of separation from the king of rock and roll. And interestingly enough, April, Frankie Valli was the second singer that I most imitated when I was a kid besides Elvis Presley. So I find it kind of an honor to have both Ginger and you so close together to realize that these were people that I really looked up to, as singers and performers, especially trying to imitate Frankie Valli's unique sound.
Yes, and we still love them, and I can't even believe myself how many people love Elvis to this day and Mr. Valli himself. And I think once you love somebody, even if it didn't work out the way you want, you always have a deep connection. And in the years as healing goes by, we can maybe step back and see it more clearly, what we got from it, what we didn't, and our own responsibility for those relationships.
Well, and you were in a very unique perspective because, here you are, he's a pretty large, bigger-than-life star singer, the group, the whole bit, and you think, I've got the opportunity to have a relationship with someone like that, but sometimes life, especially in that situation, can be way too big where you're just part of the entourage, it seemed like.
And I didn't realize this. You have to remember this is not just a cautionary tale, but it is a generational piece as well of what was going on in the early 60s. There were no computers. There were no cell phones. Maybe those big ones started to come out. But I was a little girl in the Midwest on an actual chicken farm that was very loved, and when I set my little heart on him, my family just thought it was cute. We didn't have a way to check on people, if they were married, what their background was. So it tells us also what was going on in our lives, and for the women who are listening, when were they born? And number two, what was going on in their community? I lived in Bombtown, USA, Youngstown, Ohio. It was an honor to go with the mob, as sick as that sounds. I mean, Trafficant just passed away about a month ago, and there was an article, The Mobsters We Love, and they, were saying how sad it was, and that was the mentality I grew up with. The beautiful pageant girls got married to mobsters. They went to the country club. The guys had girlfriends, and that's just the way it happened. So in my mind, I had these little messages, and women need to listen to the messages that they were given. And we don't even know they existed. Mm-hmm. And I didn't either when I was walking through this. But through all of the interventions I've done with myself, psychologically and spiritually, I came onto this. And that's how the book arrived. Like, shit. Is this what controlled me? Is this what made my decisions? And I was like, oh, my God. This is astounding. So, and family love everybody. I mean, you know, I was the first grandchild, the high achiever. I was the one who was going to make everything right for them. And I think that pressure, too, if I could be Mrs. Valli, then I could reconfirm everything they've done for me. And I could justify their dedication and the struggles, because we were not from money at all. Mm-hmm. So every time they gave me something, which they gave me everything, I felt very guilty. You know, like, what can I do to make this up for them? And Frankie was my answer. He was my ticket.
Now, tell us, first of all, you know, your first book is What I Did for Love, Why My Affair with Frankie Valli Matters to You. Right. Did you talk with him after your first book, or are you in communication with him now?
I have not. And, you know, the one question, I was on Inside Edition, and it was on Howard Stern and blah, 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 all that. First of all, they distort so much. I'm learning so much about the media. However, oh, my God, I, looked at myself. The makeup was wrong. The hair was wrong. And I looked at New York Daily Times, Jerky Boy. I'm like, I never said that. You know, he's probably going to kill me. Everyone says, oh, my God. I think the Tom and Bob show said, I don't want to stand near you on a dark night. I was like, I know, it's pretty scary. I have tried to reach out to him, and honestly, I hope someday I get to do that. However, that's why I don't think he was ever the man I thought he was, because I would assume, I can't speak for other people, but if I had a little girl that I had known I'd hurt, or she loved me, or she still loved me, I would reach out and say, hey, I'm sorry. Or, gee, that's interesting. Or, gee, I never realized that. Mm-hmm. But he'll probably take the other side and want to kill me.
So when was the last time you actually talked with Frankie?
I talked to him after my mom died, and that was a real awakening. You know, there's like a cliche that a woman never really grows up and becomes grown until her mom passes. And when my mom passed, I did start to become the matriarch. And I went to see him, and I didn't know at the time he had a cold and a flu. And I found out about that after. So he wasn't really warm to me. And then there was all these other women waiting. And then now, by that time, I'm 50 years old at the time, and I'm getting pissed. You know, I'm like, oh, my God. And then I found out he lived in Fort Lauderdale, so all these women are probably women he dated. And I'm like, now I'm really getting upset. And so I walk up to him, and I sent him a really kind of sexy picture in the back, and he laughed, and he came down, and he kissed me, but he was a little standoffish, and I got upset at him, and I said, you know, I am never going to come to see you again. I loved you my whole life, and you have never loved me. Mm-hmm. And he just looked at me. Now, I don't know. I know he's kind of, has hearing problems, and the room was crowded. See what I'm doing? I'm rationalizing. And he just looked at me, and my daughter was there, my Aunt Jenny, my Uncle Chuck, and I just walked away. And even when I was writing the book, I tried to reach out to him. I didn't have his number anymore. Now, remember, this was like, I had his number years ago, so everything's changed. Not to mention, you can trade in your cell phones. You lose half your stuff until you're in the cloud. So I had no way to contact him. So I emailed his agent, I emailed his booking agent, and I never heard back. And then Inside Edition reached out to his people, his team, and never heard back as well. So I'm assuming he's mad.
Ah. Now, tell us about the times when you first met Frankie Valli, the 1960s. What was that like?
Oh, my God. I just was enamored. There was no Beatles for me. And although I love the Beatles now, I didn't know anybody existed. I mean, I fell for him, and that's what the book is about. It's about imprinting. Mm-hmm. And imprinting is like, about ducks. They will imprint on the first moving thing they see, and that's their mom. Well, psychologically, lust and passion and our ideal version of love is a learned behavior in between a certain developmental age. Now, I believe now that developmental age is not written in stone, but somewhere between 7 and 11, depending upon the individual. So I freaking imprinted with him. He was God. Even now when you were talking about him, I got excited.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh, shit. Oh, my God, it's really him. It wasn't even him. It was like you talking about him. So I don't think you ever get over this. But imprinting is you get a vision of what your ideal love is. Like you have a picnic basket, and if you were going to pick who the man you're going to marry or woman, and this is what you set the bar with every single person you met.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why women out there could have a very good marriage, and they're not happy because it didn't fit their imprint. Did you ever have the Farrah Fawcett poster when you were growing up?
No, actually, I didn't.
You didn't. You had Frankie Valli.
I was probably one of those strange kids that didn't have, one of those posters hanging on my wall. It's interesting you bring that one up, though.
Yeah, because usually, but now, whoever your person was, and maybe you're healthy, maybe this wasn't your issue, but maybe you married somebody who was imprinted with somebody else and you're not Elvis. You know what I mean? And you're never going to be, and now she's always going to be unhappy no matter how much money you make, how sweet you are, and what you do with the kids.
Mm-hmm.
There's always going to be that lack. But so I'm the poster child of imprinting, and the good men I passed away, like they just didn't fit. And now I fell for somebody, and I believe in positive attraction, like the positive thinking, what is it, The Secret?
Right.
But how about if what you're fantasizing or thinking or wishing or positively experiencing isn't the best for you? Oh, you'll get it.
Mm-hmm.
And I got it. And I got someone who really doesn't know about spirituality, someone who isn't well read, someone who isn't like me at all.
Mm-hmm.
And then I wonder, why isn't this working? And whose fault is it?
Mm-hmm.
It's my fault. So the imprinting book is for every woman who is not in a good place in her life and a way for her to find her way back.
And, when you take a look at the fact that you started off pretty much in life with a relationship like this, as you said, it became the measure for anything after the fact. And you'll always be dissatisfied because nothing will ever measure up to that. And there was the one question I wished I had asked Ginger. What was it like when you finally met the husband that you're married to today, as far as your relationship is concerned? I mean, you were with the man.
Well, and even now, I took
exactly.
I took this man to meet Frankie, and the joke was, which has not turned out very well, is you wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Frankie.
Mm-hmm.
And and at first that person that I was involved with or is involved with, and he was, kind of flattered. But then he got to get the idea that this isn't good. She doesn't like Frankie. She doesn't like what he stands for. She doesn't like Goodfellas anymore. She's sick of The Godfather. And it became, antagonistic. It became an unhealthy relationship. So, and that's what the message is. Mm-hmm. I was an attractive woman, and I was spoiled, and I went to grooming schools and polishing schools and blah, blah, blah. I was Miss Ohio. And I did all of that for Frankie.
Mm-hmm.
When I saw he married Mary Ann and she had blonde hair, I dyed my hair blonde. I was like, okay, I can do that. I can do that. I can do this. And I don't think I really don't know what I would do if I saw Frankie. I don't know how I would feel. Mm-hmm. At least for Ginger, Elvis is dead. It does kind of close the door.
Right.
It's like, well, it's over now. You know.
I have to wonder, because you were talking about how the media, as you're beginning to learn, likes to twist and turn things. And, when her book came out, it seemed to be one of these, they were saying, well, this is a tell-all, you'll learn secrets, about Elvis probably nobody else knew. And it was none of that by any means. It was a really unique perspective on what it was like day to day. And my question would be that when this book, Big Girls Do Cry, comes out,
Mm-hmm.
Do you sense, when you wrote it, is there going to be that mystery that they're all going to be blathering about out there? Or
I think there's a few parts that are mysterious,
okay,
and that will be enlightening. And I think but not so much if you are a Frankie Valli fan, because I do believe Jersey Boys, because I know so much about Frankie's personal life, was very, very honest, and about his daughters, and about his first wife being an alcoholic, and the movie too. Did you see the movie?
No, not yet.
Oh my God! Well, I got so much bad press about writing this book, and in the movie there's "Welcome to Ohio" signs, on the highway, over and over again. It keeps using Ohio, and then I talk about my first intimate experience with him at the Holiday Inn. Well, in the movie, he gets arrested for some minor, thing like not paying a hotel bill at a Holiday Inn in Columbus. And then Bob Gaudio in the movie, they approach these two young blonde girls, and the line is, "How old are you?" And the little girls say, "Collectively or individually." So it kind of, and like I'm looking, and I'm like, does this reconfirm my story or what? It's almost like, was like, okay. There it is. There's the young girls. There's the Ohio sign over, and he was always in Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Ohio must have loved him, because so it does portray some of it. Mine is going to be more heartfelt, because he was my father to me. He was my idol, and then when I first met him, I never thought I would have sex with him.
Mm-hmm.
Never. The first time he alluded to that, I almost dropped dead. I couldn't even talk for days after. I was just like, I slept with Frankie Valli. He's like my dad.
Mm-hmm.
He's
what was
my
the age difference between the two of you?
Oh, I think 37 years. He lied about his age. First he said he was born in 37. I know. I thought that was just a girl thing.
Yeah. Most lead singers aren't past the age of 30, are they?
Exactly. So he had lied, and so my mother was born in 37. So I was like, he's my mom's age. But now I hear he was truly born in 34.
Wow.
So I was born in 57. He's 23 years my senior. Yeah, but I didn't. And the sad part is, once you're imprinted, the thing I tell women is, if you see that imprint and you fall in love with someone and you don't know their last name and you don't know what they do for a living and they've never given you any attention and you've decided he's the one, you're imprinted.
Mm-hmm.
And so now when I see somebody who hits those spots, I run for the hills, because I know it's based. And, now I'm getting people who have crushes on me. Like, not a lot. I mean, I'm no big shot or anything by any means. But I have some people go, "You're so cute, you're perfect." And we're going to have a video series on love coming up next week on my website. And they're infatuated with whatever. Maybe I hit those points.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. But it's not real.
It's really fascinating, too, when you think about the fact that, you get involved with a celebrity, and I think there are a lot of girls and guys are included in this, too. They look at celebrities, and what they see mostly is the end result. They don't realize what kind of work it takes and the kind of time commitment and dedication it does get to that final point where you see him on screen, you see him on the stage, or you see him in a magazine, wherever it is. And a lot of times those people, because of that kind of a workload, can tend to be very self-absorbed, especially when you get to a level like Frankie Valli, where he probably had aides getting anything that he needed at any particular time. So you get to the point where it seems relationships might be disposable, so to speak.
Oh, I'm sure I was disposable, and I'm sure a lot of people. He is one of the most well-respected figures still today in rock and roll history in America, and people still adore him. But I remember some nights him telling me, "I'm so sick of doing this. Mm-hmm. I wish I could quit." And then for a few years, I believe he did kind of back off, and now he's going full steam. And I hope...
I think he's in a race with Tom Jones.
Exactly, but, I hope and I know the press is going to twist this, but the book goes on sale April 1st on Amazon, and it's going to be released for his birthday in May, the beginning of May. So I'm sure people are going to say, oh, she did that, but, oh, heck, he took my virginity. Can't I give him a birthday gift?
Sure. Now, tell us, about the relationship that you had. Was it day-to-day, or is it just whenever he was in town?
No, it was, he would give me his phone number. Of course, now it was his manager's. I mean, I'm looking back now. This is how naive I was. And he would call me every now and then. There were a few times in our lives that he was serious about me, or more serious about me than the way I wanted it, but it never worked out right. It was like timing was against us. But basically, I would go, now remember, I didn't know where he was. I couldn't find him. I had to either contact him or just look in my local newspaper, there was nothing. So we would get together, and one summer I traveled with him for a while on his bus, and we were supposed to go to Hawaii, and that's when his daughter passed away. And we always and there was another time that he really could have liked me, really liked me, but my boyfriend at the time he found out I was in Chicago, followed me, starts screaming at the door, "You're with my wife." I'm not married to this guy. This guy just starts making this crap up, and Frankie believes him.
Oh, boy.
And I knew at that time, this was in fact, he even called me after that, and we discussed it, and he said, "You should stay with your husband." I'm like, I'm not married to him. But I guess he believed him. I don't know. And that was never true. It was never true. So every time Frankie would maybe open the door to his heart to me, then it was like some unforeseen something would happen. And I was heartbroken. I was like, oh my God. And I was once somebody's done, they're done. Or, he thought I was lying, or he thought I was cheating on my boyfriend. And that wasn't the case. But really, Frankie did always supersede any man I was with.
Now, April, did it take time, and have you actually gotten over the relationship, or you feel, okay, it's kind of clear skies from here? Or?
Yeah, I think I know my triggers, let's put it that way. I think when I move on and meet more men or more opportunities come into my life, I think I will at least pause and listen instead of working. Women work so hard to sell themselves when really the men should be hunting us. We should realize we're okay just the way we are. There's going to be someone who likes a size 4 and someone who likes a size 8. There's going to be someone who likes a redhead and someone who likes a blonde. We don't have to lower the bar, and we don't have to sell ourselves. And really listen to the men and let them do. If Frankie really would have wanted me, let's face it, he could have flown me anywhere to be with him. I did a lot of the work. And that should have been. So when you see yourself doing more work than the guy you're interested in, that's not right. When you love a man and you don't know him, that's not right. When you're giving and losing some self-respect and dignity, that's not right. Although I understand. And am I over Frankie Valli? I won't know until I see him. Honestly, I'm being very candid with you. I won't know. I would love to have a talk with him someday before I pass away. Someday in my life, not now. Not until he reads the book and makes sure because I'm not going to blaspheme him. I love him. And all the people that love him.
I find it fascinating, April, that as you share this story, especially from a woman's perspective who has felt jilted, that you have somehow found your complicitness in this whole thing. You realize this is what I did that contributed to the situation being the way that it was. And it's so interesting when you see or talk or listen to a person that's trying to get over a relationship after being jilted. And in the beginning, it's always pointing the finger. Well, they did this to me, and they did that, and it just goes on and on and on. And in time, hopefully, if we can mature and actually step back out of our emotional pain, we realize, well, what did I do that allowed this to happen?
Right, there's a synchronicity, and without getting woo-woo on all of this, when I first had, my epiphany and my little mental breakdown that what I've done my whole life, I had a dream, and I kind of felt like I got an email from Frankie Valli, and I'm in this giant theater. And you know how the screen is gray and there's the light from up above that's shining? And I'll tell you, I'm not a dreamer and I'm not like wacko. I'm a little wacko, but I'm not real wacko. And you're not going to see me flying on my broomstick by your station anytime soon. So I have this dream that I walk into this theater. I'm all by myself. No one's in there. And I look up at the light and there's a figure. And I'm walking and walking. It seems like forever. And I get there and there's Frankie with his hand under his chin in a brown sweater, clear, and he said, well, I've been waiting for you. And it was almost like this was meant to be. This was maybe his name is giving me the opportunity. I have 2 masters in counseling. I've been a social worker, a guidance counselor. I always wanted to help women. Mm-hmm. And maybe this was all pre-planned. Right. And this is part of my life. Mm-hmm. Even I planned my funeral because, we're doing, you do your paperwork when you reach a certain age. And one of the songs at my funeral is, My Eyes Adored You. Mm-hmm. And that's how deeply his life meant to me. Mm-hmm. It's just sad that he doesn't know that. But, hey, probably millions of women love him, so...
Well, at least it isn't beauty school dropout.
Or Grease. I know how he got that. I do know some tidbits about his life, but those will all be for people who love the Four Seasons and love Frankie. I assure you would look at what loving a man like him is like. Mm-hmm. He never gave me drugs. He never, he was a real dad to me. Mm-hmm. He would, after we had sex, he'd always give me lectures.
Oh, boy.
Oh, my God.
Most men don't even want to talk after that.
No, he would give me lectures, and he met my children, and he saw them grow up. And he would, and he would say, I knew your mom since she was knee-high to a grasshopper. If there was anything inappropriate, it was that he saw me grow up from a 6-year-old when I first saw him, and then blossom into, this little Miss Ohio chick, and perhaps being intimate with me. And then, of course, once he had sex with me, I was, hey, I'm in it. I'm there now. I'm not going to go back and make out with the guys in the school band bus. The trumpet player's not going to do it for me.
Right. So the book comes out in April of next year?
Yes, it comes out on Amazon. You can go to my website. I do blogs about love, and the video series starts next week. It's aprilkirkwood.com. I would also love to hear women's stories about their relationships with powerful men, whether it's a high school English teacher, a professor, a pastor, hopefully not a pastor, a boss. But, these things happen, and they are very insightful, and I'd love to interview them. My second book is going to be the workbook for imprinting, and hopefully my third book will be the stories of other women and their experiences, because we're in this together, and, if you want to heal it, you got to reveal it.
That's right.
So thank you very much. Is there anything else you'd like to know? He's a cutie. He is a typical Dago, and I'm a Dago, so I'm a baby Dago. I could say that.
Well, no, the only thing I can think of is maybe I can get an autographed poster of Farrah Fawcett with his name on it.
Now, that would be perfect. And if you want to know what an imprint looks like, just look at me, because I am forever imprinted on, Frankie Valli is imprinted on my heart. And I'll take that. I'll take that.
Well, April, thank you so much for taking the time to join us here on the program. It's been a real pleasure, and I'm sure it'll be an exciting read when the book does come out in April next year.
And then I'm going on a book tour, so I will be going on the tour in unison with Frankie's tour as well.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. So if you find that you hear the Four Seasons or Frankie Valli of the Four Seasons is going to be in your town, call your Barnes & Nobles or your favorite bookstore and see if I'm going to be there, or ask for me. And you can get that information on aprilkirkwood.com or write to me, PR@aprilkirkwood.
Sounds good. April, again, thank you for joining us here on the program today.
Okay, God bless. I love your show, and thank you for everything, and best of luck to you, and everybody have a wonderful holiday season.
Absolutely. Thank you again. You can also find out more. Visit us at beyond50radio.com. That is the number 50. We also have our exclusive e-news updates that we encourage you to subscribe to as well. I'm Daniel Davis. Thank you again for joining us. This is the Beyond 50 radio program, and remember, live your day past halfway.